Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on our Q-tip session on query writing basics for SAP Business One. My name is Elizabeth Miller and I'm the CEO at Quaint Business Solutions. Quaint is an SAP B1 provider and we value excellence in our customer service as well as knowledge in the B1 application. And part of what we like to do at Quaint is to ensure we're always showcasing the greatest features within the SAP application and helping empower our clients and others to use the system to its fullest capabilities. So today we are going to do our first session on query writing to help you get an understanding of how to create your own queries within SAP and also to give you some understanding as to the structure and setup of queries in general and where to find that information in SAP. In the future, we hope to be providing more advanced in-depth sessions, but what better place to start than the basics? So hopefully, if you already are doing some query writing today, you'll still find some of the information here helpful and help you gain a better foundation for your query writing as you continue to expand. So today we are going to be reviewing some of the reporting tools that are available for query writing and report writing out of the SAP application, as well as giving you an overview of the SAP's table structure in general. We're going to touch on some of the basics of SQL Select Statements, as well as how to join SQL tables and what those joins mean. And then I'm going to dive into the system and the application itself to give you some real-world examples on how to use these tools and where to find some of the information that we're reviewing on these slides to begin with. So reporting tools in general, there's many different ways that you can go about query writing or report writing within the SAP application. As well as external tools that aid you with the SAP application. The one we're going to be focusing on today is the query generator. There is a really nice query wizard within SAP as well that kind of takes you step by step how to build a query. And then a lot of you probably are aware of Crystal reports, which are the pretty layouts and other like external reporting capabilities that you can do that attaches to SAP as well. And then there are the additional tools of Excel functionality, as well as the SQL Management Studio. And if you're in HANA, the HANA Studio, as well as the BI and analytics that are available. But again, today we're going to be focusing on the query generator tool. So in general, I want to start talking about the SAP table structure. Within SAP, one of the things I love about the B1 application is your ability to actually see the back end from the front end UI. And we do this through viewing system information, which if you go to the view toolbar and you click on system information, you're able to see those table names and fields, which I will show you in the application here shortly. Other places that you can look to find information would be the SDK Help Center, as well as the query generator tool itself gives you some information and about where the tables are that we'll look at. And I'm also giving you a couple references here as to other places on the web that you can go for a SQL table insight and our resources as well. We have put out some great resources for you that you can download from our website. If you go to our resource tab, we have some example query writing if you want to test your own skills. We give you some examples and then how we would solve those for you to test, as well as an objects list with some of the tables from SAP for your reference. And we also created a really awesome tool to show you the difference between SQL syntax and HANA syntax. Today, I will be demoing in the SQL syntax, but I wanted you to know that that resource is available to you to download off of our website and is a really neat tool to show you the difference between some of the functions like is null, if null, how to do different things like date part and stuff like that once you get into the specifics of different functions that you can do. In general, in SAP, you will find that the table structure has a naming structure to it. All of the main tables or header tables within SAP begin with an O. And you will see that in our example here where we're taking the example of a sales order. The main header table where like the date, the card code, the customer name, all of that stuff is housed in the ORDR table. After that, all subsidiary tables and related tables, they drop the O and they start to add a number at the end, as you see here from this example, where you have RDR1 as the actual lines, which is that matrix area of the document itself, and freight and taxes and address details, anything else that's related to those tables, like I said, has the same naming structure, but with numbers in addition to it. As far as historical tables, if you're ever looking to query what something was in the past or kind of do a changelog type of query, again, we're not going to be touching too much on that today, but I wanted to give you some basics of how that naming structure is. You'll find that the master data tables for history will start with an A. For example, the items history table is AITM, where the current data table is OITM. The historical would be AITM. For marketing documents, such as your AR invoice, your purchase orders, your AP invoices, sales orders, things like that, those are all actually held in a history data table called ADOC. The way that you get the actual specific document that you want out of this table is to filter by the object type. So every single document in SAP has an object type that is a number that is assigned to it that makes it unique. For instance, sales orders are, I believe, 17, and AR invoices are number 13 for their object type. So within this ADOC table, if you were querying and you wanted that specific to sales order historical data only, you would need to filter by that object type number, which would be 17. Likewise, draft tables, if you're looking into querying in the future for drafts, those have their own specific tables. That information would not be held in the main tables. They would be in the ODRF tables and the DRF1 tables. Again, they would need to be filtered by object type for you to find the specific draft document that you are looking for. So we will again touch base on some of that stuff, and these slides will be available to you as well. We'll put these up on the website so you can reference them back. So feel free to take notes, but know that these will be a resource to you as well. I want to talk now real quick before we get into some of the examples about the basics of the SQL statement itself. So we have different sections when we start talking about query writing, and you'll see this when we get into the application in the query generator itself, that there are different sections or boxes that kind of help you decide which area you're working with as you're creating your report. The select statement area is where you're actually selecting what is going to be presented in the query itself. This is where you're putting like the columns that you want to show in the report, and you are grabbing the specific field names from the tables themselves, and these are separated by commas, and you can have as many as you want, and that's what is actually physically going to show on your query as an end result. The from area is going to be where you actually reference the tables that these fields are coming from. So again, this would be like if you're talking about querying something from the BP master record, you'd be working with the table OCRD, and you would reference that table in addition to the field names it's referencing in the select statement. This is also where you can join other tables to get supporting information or to query. Let's say you're trying to query all of the invoices for a specific customer. You would need not only maybe information from the BP master record, but you would also need information from the AR invoice table. And so you would need to join all the tables that you need information from here, and you specify what type of join, which we'll talk about in a minute, to get the actual information that you need. The where area is where you're actually doing conditions or filtering of the report. So this is where you can say, okay, for that example of I want to see all the invoices for a specific customer, I only want to see invoices from this year. This is where you can write specific syntax or conditions that allow you to say where, a document date is greater than this document date, or maybe it's between a couple different date ranges. So this is where you can actually filter the report to make it more applicable to your specific needs. We're not going to focus a ton on the other ones that are here, but I'm just going to touch base on them so you understand what those are. But the group by area is where you can actually group the report. This is extremely important. Like if you are trying to say, I want to see the total sales for this year for a specific salesperson. To actually do the summation of all the sales, you would need to group by the customer, or excuse me, the salesperson's name to actually see that. So grouping allows you to do that. You'll note here that it says fields that are not grouped, they must be function fields. So when you are doing sums or counts or things like that, those actually aren't referenced here. But all the other fields like the customer name or the salesperson name, things like that that you want to group by would be designated here. The having condition is more of an advanced thing, and that is a condition on those grouped fields. So again, it's kind of a filter to say how those are being grouped by or if they have specific conditions. Again, that would be for another advanced webinar in the future, but it is something that you can do with your select statements here. And then the order by is the area where you can designate how you are going to be sorting a specific report. This can include descending and ascending functions. So you could say, okay, I want to see all of this customer's invoices and I wanted it sorted by document date or document number. This is where you can designate the field that you want it sorted by. You can have multiple fields. They would be separated by commas. So you can say, okay, I want to see all the invoices for this year by customer, sort it by customer, and sort it by doc date. So first you get all of one customer and by doc date, and then you get all of the next customer by doc date. So depending on how you want it presented, that is where the order by section comes in. Moving on to SQL Table joins. There are generally 4 different join types available. The main ones that we use on an ongoing basis are the inner, left, and right join. So I'll walk through what these mean. When you're joining 2 tables, if you use an inner join, you're basically saying, show me the information where all the records from table 1 and table 2, where they actually meet. Okay, so if I am joining a customer to an invoice, and I'm doing an inner join, I'm only going to be presented with invoices where that customer actually has invoices. I'm not actually going to get anybody else's. Okay, I'm just going to get that customer's, and if one actually exists. If that customer didn't have any invoices to date, and I say run this report for that specific customer, and I use an inner join, I actually will be presented with an alert that says that there's no data available because it can't find where there were any invoices actually made for that customer. Now, if I wanted to see the data for that customer, and if it did have any invoices, whether or not it had invoices or not, I want to see that, then maybe I could use a left join. And a left join is going to show me everything in table 1. So that would be everything from the BP master data that maybe I needed to see, along with any information from the invoice table when that invoice actually exists. So if that customer actually had an invoice, I would see that data. And if I had a BP that maybe didn't, but I needed to see their default ship to address, it would show me their default ship to address, and I'd have a blank where that invoice was because nothing actually existed on the invoice side, but I do have actual relevant data for the BP side. So that's where left joins can be very handy. And then likewise, a right join is very similar in concept, but it's looking at table number 2. So this is just to allow you the flexibility to say, well, I want to see everything from table 1 and where it meets with table 2, or a right join would be saying, I want to see everything from table 2 and where it meets with table 1. Okay, so those are ones we use often. Probably the main 2 that I use all the time are inner and left join, but just depends on how complicated. And then a full join is basically saying, show me everything from table 1 and 2, regardless of if there is an actual data where they meet at all. Just show me everything. Like I said, I don't use that one as much, but that capability is out there in case you get into advanced query writing to know that that is a possibility for you to use. And we'll see some examples of these in my example here shortly. So now we're going to take a second and get into the SAP application. I'm going to show you how to actually, in the app, find table names and field names, and how to actually do some query writing with the query generator itself. So one thing I want you to know is in the, what I'm going to show you in a minute, you're going to be looking down here in the left-hand side and the bottom of the screen. But to turn on information so you can actually see field names and table names, you want to navigate to the View toolbar and make sure that you have system information checked here. If this is checked, then you'll be able to see the stuff that I'm talking about. So since I have this checked, I'm going to go into a table here and we'll look at some data. So we're in the BP master. Again, look down here as I'm hovering over stuff up here. Don't follow my cursor, but look down here so you can see what I'm talking about. If I now, with that system information turned on, hover over a field like this, you'll see the information is showing down in the bottom. Inside the brackets, you should see something that says OCRD. That OCRD is the actual SAP table name that I would need if I was querying this. Wanted to know what table, that is the table. And then right after OCRD, it says comma, card code. Card code is the field name in SAP for querying. Okay, so if I was going to begin, I know I need OCRD and I'm looking for field name card code. Likewise, as I go over to this, you'll see I'm still in OCRD, but now it's card name. Here, OCRD, but card F name. You will see that if I go to some other tables, like let's go to addresses here. Now I'm going to hover over this. You'll see now all of a sudden I'm in CRD1 and the field is address. So I am now in a subsidiary table that relates to the BP master header. Again, this is the big header area. And this is its own table for addresses, and this is the specific field address on that table. So I know if I'm going to need information from this, I'm likely going to have to join these tables together to get all the information I need. Okay. I will also show you this on a marketing document so that it makes sense. So let's navigate to an invoice here. Again, this header area, if I hover over this, you should see in that bottom left-hand corner OINV, which is the header or main table for AR invoices, and you will see the field name card code. And if I go down here in this matrix area, you will see INV1, and you will see description field is the field name for item description. You will also see, and this is important if you, just side note, if you work with syntax, variable syntax in the future, or BOEM in any way, which also runs off of the SAP syntax, you will see that this also tells you item number, which is 38. It will tell you also the column that you were on, which is column number 3, and it will show you row number 1. As you navigate through these, the columns change, and for BOEM and other variable syntax, when you get into advanced query writing or user-defined values and formatted searches, that syntax of item, column, and row can be very, very useful to you. So I just want to point that out. Okay, so that is how, with the system information on, if you're in the system, you can navigate and see what table and what field name at a glance. Or like I already said in the slides, there are other resources that will help you know what table. And in the table, there are schemas basically that will give you all, you can Google these a lot, that will give you all the fields within a specific table as well. But the other tool that's available to you, like I said, is the query generator. So if you go to tools, and again, whether or not you have rights to do query generating, I should say, depends on your authorizations. It can be limited to certain people to have authorizations to query or to not be able to query. So just note that if for some reason you're trying to do something and you're blocked with an authorization thing, please contact your system admin or if you're a Quaint client and need support with that, feel free to reach out to our support center. We'd be happy to help you get the assistance you need for whatever you're trying to do. So under tools though, under queries, you will see we mentioned that there was the query wizard, but we're going to be focusing on query generator. Query manager is actually, I'm not going to touch too much on this today, but this is where you can save your queries and reference them back to them or rerun them manually. It is also up here on your toolbar. If we have time, I will touch base on that in the end just to show you where you can save them. But we're going to get into the nitty-gritty here of the query generator. So this is the query generator tool, and from the slides that we kind of talked through, these sections should start to look kind of familiar to you as far as the overview we've already given. But I want to tell you how you can navigate in here. If you know the table name, you are more than welcome to just type it in here. So we were on the AR invoice, which I know is OINV. So I could type in here OINV and tab. And that's going to add the table down here for my use and actually shows me all of the different field names that are available on that table itself for me to then select in the different areas to start building my query. If I did not know where a specific table or what a table was called or what I'm really looking for, I can also in here leave this blank. And if I tab in this window, I'm going to come up with a choose from list. And just like every other area in SAP, when I have a list like this, if I double click on the header, it puts a little black arrow here, which tells me it's sorting by this. And so I could look through it alphabetically, or this says I'm searching by this field, so I could look for OINV, which tells me it's an AR invoice. If I didn't know the table name, I could actually look by a description. Let's say I'm looking for the business partner. So I can start typing a business partner. And now all of a sudden it's searching by this and I can see, oh, look, it's probably this one, right? And again, just to reiterate the history, you see this is the main business partner table. The historical table is right next to it since I'm searching by description, but that one starts with an A. So based on the fact that I know that the main table I'm looking for should start with an O, that would give me a good indication that this is the main one I want to start with. And then you can start to see all the other ones that are related. And just to show that real quick, let's say we're talking about CRDU, you can see that there's lots of different ones up of here, or INV1 might be a good one to look at. You'll see there's lots of different AR invoice ones, subsidiary tables related that I might need to use. Okay. So I could search by that. Another thing that you can do is anytime you see in these field names where there is a bolded field name, that's where SAP is trying to help you be user-friendly. And if you click and hold, you'll see that it kind of highlights the box here. And you can drag and drop these highlighted or bolded fields over here, and it will try to give you the related table that field comes from, because it's another primary key, if you will, in the system. And it will also, as you're adding tables, it will try to automatically do the joining for you on the specific field names. These 99% of the time are correct. I do want to just put the preface out there that once in a while where it tries to join is not the way that you will need it to join. You are always welcome to override these and do your own manual joins. But in general, it will try to do that for you. So for instance, we're doing the AR invoice right now. If I wanted something from the row and I knew it was INB1 and I tab, again, it adds it here. Because this is highlighted, I can see all the field names here. Again, if I click here, I'm seeing all the field names for the header table. And it automatically did an inner join, which it always does inner joins. So anytime you need a left join, you will have to manually override those. But it does the join for me, and it's joining on the primary key in both tables. So if you guys know anything about table structure, that kind of helps, that there usually is a primary key. The primary key, if you will, is what makes it unique in the system for the system to be able to go and grab the correct record. For documents like invoices and purchase orders and sales orders, SAP calls that internal number doc entry. When you see the number in SAP like this that says 1060, that's great. That's the external number that you're seeing. If you guys recall from your setup, you are able to change document numbering for yourself and between clients or for seasonality or whatever. There's many different reasons that you could change your document number to start with like a 10,000. Just because you change that number in the numbering series, that's great for here, but internally SAP has its own number that it's referencing that document that may not be the same as this number. So I want to point that out too, that when you're working with documents, the main internal number is going to be that doc entry. You will see it on this table. You see it here. You don't always see it on the header tables, but you can always query it on that header table by manually entering it, as you see here, where it says T0. You can always grab that internal number yourself, even if you don't see it here. So just know that as well. So let's talk about for a second how it is joining and what the references are. If I was, let's start to get something in our select statement here. So let's say that on OINV, I wanted to grab, I want to see the card code. I can double click here and it's going to grab and put it in my select for me. And I want the card name. And let's say I want the doc date. And let's say I want the doc total too. Know that you can, again, double click on this and sort it alphabetically by either column to help you find the field you're looking for. I can also manually type in what I want. Know that in SQL, there is no case sensitivity. It is case insensitive, if you will. I can write doc total like this, and I'm still going to get it as long as it's spelled right. It doesn't matter the case, but in HANA, it is case sensitive. So if you are in HANA, you must capitalize the right letters in your syntax or you will get an error. Okay, also, you're not seeing me do it in SQL because it doesn't matter in SQL, but in HANA, you have to do double quotes around everything. In SQL, you do not. So just know that you can, like I said, if you know the field name, you can type it in like I just did. You may wonder if you're new to query writing and table structure, what these T0s mean. What that is referencing is from the from area. You'll see that for OINV, I give it, well, SAP gave it a little reference. So I know that this table in the select is being referenced as T0. And INV1 is going to be referenced as T1. So if I want to know what field this table actually came from, I know I'm actually pulling it from the OINV table because it has a T0 in front of it. You'll see that this T0, sometimes there are field names that are the same between different tables. For instance, this is coming from OINV. This one being T1 is coming from INV1. There may be a time where you really need it pulled from T1, which is the INV table, INV1 table, instead of OINV. That's where these references become very helpful. It lets you say which field, if there are duplicates, which table you're actually pulling from. And sometimes as you get into advanced query writing, that matters. Okay, so that's what these are referencing, so it knows which table. If you ever get an error message that says cannot find reference of this, it's more than likely that you're referencing it in a table in the wrong table. Like you say it's T0, but that field really only exists in the T1 table. So check that. Also, if you get syntax errors, know that more than likely it's you're missing a comma, or you put single quotes or double quotes somewhere and you didn't finish them out. Those are likely what your issue is going to be. So just wanted to touch on that to make sure you know what those reference points are. Okay, so we're saying we want to be able to see card code, card name, doc doc date, and doc total. And we're joining on this. So let's just see for a second what this looks like so far. So let's do an execution. If everything goes right, I should get a green success message, and then I should see the extra pop-up window that actually is showing me my query written out, and it is showing me the display of these of the data that I have basically queried today. So you're seeing here, and I'm going to back up for a second. I'm going to put doc num in here, so I can actually see the invoice number. Okay, great. So you can see here, I am actually now seeing the representation of the different invoices. You may notice that in joining INV1 table, right now I am pulling all data from my header table only, but in my actual report, I am seeing duplicates across the invoices. And that is because when I join this table to INV1, which is the rows, I'm actually getting duplicate data for every row that's on the invoice because I joined it to that table. I'm going to show you as an example. If I take this table off and I'm only pulling from OINV, I actually won't get duplicates anymore. So this is just an example as you're troubleshooting different things that can happen. When you're joining multiple tables, it wants to show the data based on the joins that you are providing. So if it would make sense, though, if I do need something from that, and now I need to actually show something from this table, let's show item code, and let's show item description and quantity. And now in my data, it makes maybe a little more sense, because although I am seeing duplicates of this invoice number and the header table information, it makes sense because I'm seeing the individual items from that and their related information. Okay, but depending on how I do joins and how I represent things, that can look different. I'm going to show you an example real quick of the difference between an inner and a left join and why that may matter. Let's see if I can come up with a good one. So let's say that I wanted to see everything from the BP master and where they have actual invoices. So let's see if I can do this. Okay, so for right now, I am taking OCRD and I am joining it to OINV1, or excuse me, OINV. I want to see this card code, card name, and I want to see all of their different invoices. Doc date. And let's say I only want to see this where statement, again, is where I can filter. I only want to see document dates for this current year. So I can say where, and if I know the conditions and all the syntax for that, I could manually write it out. But again, SAP tries to be really user-friendly. You can click this conditions box and it gives you the different conditions that you can use. And if I don't know what that is and I need to use it, I can say let's say where doc date is greater than, I'm going to double click while this box is highlighted, and it's going to give me the syntax. Or maybe it's greater than and equal to. And now I'm going to say where it's greater than or equal to January 1st of this year. Okay. And so now I'm filtering. I'm not going to see all the invoices that are in the system, but I'm just going to see invoices that match this specific criteria. So let's see what I have here. Okay, so I really only have 3, and they appear to all be the same customer. Let's try doing it from 2023 and see what I have here. Okay, so now I have a little bit more data. Just to show you some examples of these other functions real quick as well. Let's say that I wanted to, this doesn't seem to be in necessarily any particular order, but let's say I want to sort by the doc date. So I'm going to put doc date as my sort by here. And if I rerun this, now I will see it. Instead of it sorting, it automatically sorts by, just so you know, the very first field in your selection. So you'll see here it's sorting by well, it's supposed to be sorting by BP code, but here I'm going to sort by the document number. Did this give me a different presentation? It did not. Let's see. Say I sort by card code and then doc date. See if that does it for me. Okay, that looks better. So I'm sorting by BP code, and then I am sorting by the document number for them. So I can change my presentation by that sort by column. Okay. But I wanted to show you the example between an inner join and a left join real quick before we start to conclude or take some questions on this. Let me think if I have a good example. So if I wanted to see all the BPs and if they had any invoices, let's say I want to see the most recent number. There are functions, and you can use Google for this, but there are cool functions like max, min, count, sum, things like that that you can do. So if I wanted to see the last invoice number for all BPs, if one exists, but I want to see a list of all my BPs, no matter if they have an invoice or not. First, I'm going to show you this with an inner join and what it looks like, which is going to be docnum. And this is where my group by comes in. Because I am doing a function like this, I'm going to have to use that group by capabilities, or it's going to give me an error, which let me show you. If you get an error, it's going to be an error like this, and it's going to say, column OCRD card code. Let's bring it back up for a second. Is invalid because it's not in an aggregate function or the group by clause. So it's giving me a clue that because I did this function of max, I need to do a group by of some sort for it to actually be able to do what I'm asking for. So I'm going to put my card code down here. And now I should get a result where I am seeing the latest number. Now, because I did an inner join, I am only seeing a list of the BP names where the BPs actually have an invoice. I'm not getting actually what I really want, which is the full list of the BPs, and then when there is an invoice, what exists. Now, if I change this to a left join to say, show me everything from the OCRD table, and then where it meets the other table, I should get a much more exclusive list. So yes, you can see the difference in these and your joins, right? So now I'm getting a list of every BP that's out there. And if it has a value in the invoice, it will show me. Otherwise, it leaves that blank. Okay, so that's a left join example. When this is an inner join, it's only going to show me where they actually meet. So that's the capabilities and just a very simple example of how those joins work. So this again is just the very basics of how to start using this tool, how some of the different fields work, where you can find conditions. I'll also say real quick, there are capabilities if when you're running a query, you want to be able to have your user have some input into the query, meaning let's say before they run it, you want the user to give you a specific date range that they're looking for, or you want them to be able to input what customer they're actually running the query for. These variables in SAP are what allow you to do that. So we could try to do this as an example. Let me see which customer I have. Okay, I'm going to copy this so I know it. Let's say that we want the user to input that. I could say in this where statement, I'm going to put a parameter that says where my card code equals a variable, which is the input from the user running the query themselves. If I put this in, what's going to happen is when I run this, I'm going to get the user prompt. And it's going to ask them what they want. If they can use the ellipsis to search and find the list, or they can type it in, which I just grabbed. And when they do that, then this query will filter based on the value they provide, and it should show me just the data for that customer only. Okay, so know that those variables are available to you, and You can have more than one variable in here, and then it will just give a list. So we could do one more just as a quick example and say where doc date is greater than or equal to, and we're going to say the next parameter. So now I'm going to get 2 prompts. So I'm going to say, give me that, within a specific date range. So there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of ways to customize. Again, we're just kind of trying to give you the basic overview of what's available and what you can do to start using this tool. Let me take it back to our slides here for a second. Are there any questions, though? I'd like to open it up to see if anybody has any specific questions. I know we went over a lot of stuff, and I tried to keep it timely. But are there any questions so far over what we went as far as table structure, the basics of the SQL statement, or how to do it in SAP, how to find things, anything like that that was not clear? Joins, anything? Okay, well, if there's no questions, again, I just want to say thank you for attending another one of our Quaint Q-Tip webinars. And know again that there are resources available out to you. These slides will be available, as well as if you go out to the Quaint resource page, we have that SQL versus HANA syntax comparison, as well as a query objects list and some practice queries if you want to get into it and try some things with our answers to how those queries would be written so you can start to try to play with the tool. And as always, please go ahead and follow us on LinkedIn. And if you're a current client, check our email announcements for other features. We will, again, try to do some advanced query writing in the future, but let us know if you have any questions or concerns. Always a pleasure. Thank you all and have a wonderful day.